Federal Reserve is not federal or a reserve, it's a private bank. Who owns it? Not really sure, but they're the ultra wealthy.
You have absolutely no upside when you have a ton of money for people to know you have money, but you have tons of upside when you have no money to make it seem like you have money.
The idea to own nothing and control everything, it's an incredible concept, but in practice, it's actually very difficult to do from a planning perspective.
I think that's the really, really cool part about life insurance is it gives you options. There's so many tools out there that kind of put you in a pigeonhole in one box, but you have to use it for one specific thing. But life insurance gives you the options to do different things depending on life circumstances in that exact moment in time.
All right, we're going to be reviewing the most viral video that we have at BetterWealth. It's not on our channel. It's by our good friend, Jake Tran. Almost 1 million views on a video that we did together. We're going to be reviewing that. I got Dominic Ruffin in the house. I got Alden Armstrong in the house. And guys, I'm very excited about this. I'm excited to review this video. I'm excited that we're all doing a video together. I believe this is the first video that we've all done together, which is probably very problematic to just say that out loud. Like, why haven't we done more videos together?
I think it's safe to say we're all growing. We all got our own unique spaces. You do content with Alden. I do content with Alden. I do content with you. As everybody knows, it's probably been less and less of me coming on the BetterWealth show. That's just because we're growing, we're doing awesome things, and it's just fun to kind of be nostalgic and get after it here today. I almost even thought about making a joke because I've done it to you about 7 to 10 times of butchering my last name since we've inception together. It's been like almost 5 years or over, and you still can't get it completely right, which is it's always hilarious.
How did I get it wrong?
You said Dominic Ruffin, and it's Dominic Ruffin. You know, it's very subtle, but, you know, it's like Williams versus Williams, I guess.
Right, right. Yeah, very much so.
I'm really white and really
I'm excited.
easy over here. I got last name Armstrong, so it's like,
yeah,
you do really well with that.
Armstrong,
really
I can do that in my sleep. With all joking aside, I think this is a very special time to just review a video that really put us on the map in some cases. I remember I was going to an event when this thing went live, and to see all the people that reached out to us, I know that there's been some like legitimate wealthy families that watched this video that reached out to us. And I know there's been some really cool conversations and some things that have happened from this. And so I cringe every time that I gotta like watch a video that I'm speaking, like reacting to a video that I'm in. It's not something that like I'm super stoked about, but I think it would be cool to, number one, we'll have the full unedited video that we're reacting to down below. But just to go through it, because there are points that we could laugh at, but there's also points that would be like really, really good to say like, hey, we should flesh that out more. Alden, that's why you're here, because you really dove headfirst into strategies like this. You're talking to most of the ultra wealthy people that are coming in with these strategies. And so we thought we would add you. And then, you know, Dom and I have a lot of videos talking about the Rockefellers and all. And this definitely talks about generational wealth and the Rockefeller family. And so I thought we have to have Dom's face on here. It would be disrespectful, even though I can't say your last name right, to not have you on here. So anything that you guys want to say before we start playing this, and if anything pops up while we're playing the video, please stop me, and then I'll stop after every time that I speak in this video so that we can give 2 cents.
I think the only thing I would say is that there's a reason that we haven't done content, the three of us together, is I can take each of you in small doses, all of us on the same call. This may get a little crazy, but I'm excited to see what happens.
Yeah, I can't wait to see the comments on this video. Here we go.
So you're a billionaire and you've run into a problem. You've amassed all this wealth, all this power, but you're getting old. And your kids, your nieces, your nephews, they're all lining up to kiss your butt to make sure they get listed on the will. But your family doesn't know anything about money. They didn't have to grind it out like you did. Everything was given to them. So if you leave any money to them, they are gonna squander it. No, seriously, a staggering 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the next generation, with 90% losing it by the generation after that. 2 generations. That is all it takes for all your wealth, all your hard work, the empire you've built to go circling down the drain. You cannot let that happen. But lucky for you, ultra-wealthy dynasties have already figured out how to solve this problem, and at the center of it all are the Rockefellers, who after 80 years since his death, 7 generations later, John D. Rockefeller's family is still standing as one of the wealthiest families on Earth. How wealthy? Well, no one knows, because they're just that good at hiding it. And in this video, we are gonna expose it all. Trusts, family foundations, family offices, and a super clever tactic that not many people know about. Stay dangerous, this is how the rich get richer, and this is definitely not financial advice.
I like how he does the disclaimer way better than how we do the disclaimer. So this is not financial advice.
Yeah.
Winky face.
Yeah. Hey, I think a good thing that would make sense to just throw in here and add is a lot of the stuff that we're about to talk and discuss from a strategic perspective, it's obviously is great. But the thing that really makes a lot of this tick comes down to mindset. And that's the one thing that I've actually really learned from taking a deep dive into the Rockefellers and actually talking to Alden, is that you can have some of the best strategies in the world, but if you don't have the right mindset around how you can bring your family together, how you can teach them values, how you can create a system around this stuff, then none of it really matters at the end of the day. So I just thought it would be a good place to start, knowing that we're about to talk about some of the strategies, but really the mindset above all is really a good place to start with it.
Love it.
Here's what you have to understand about the ultra wealthy versus the masses. The masses want to get rich so they can own the Lambo, so they can own the yacht, the mansion, the private jets. They want to show it off, they want to flaunt their wealth. But owning stuff is for the peasants. When you legally own something, leeches want to sue you every chance they get, thieves want to steal from you, the government wants to tax you into oblivion, ambitious prosecutors want to take you down, and the plebs want to pillage you. That is why the ultra wealthy do not want to own stuff, because owning stuff sucks. Instead, what you want to do is have control over your assets as if you owned it without actually owning it. You want to live in the penthouse on Billionaires Row without it being tied to your name. You want to sell your mega yacht without it being under your name. Just ask the Russian oligarchs if they agree. The key is control, not ownership. You want to be able to do everything you can with the thing as if you owned it without having your name on the papers.
Because when you have ownership, taxes follow you and liability follows you. And also sometimes fame follows you. And so those three things could be problematic. And the people that are really wealthy want control, but they don't necessarily want the liability that comes with ownership. And they don't necessarily want the taxation that files title and ownership. And so many of the wealthiest people in the world, we don't even know their names because they have a ton of control, but they're not names, they're not personally on a lot of assets and wealth. And that's really the name of the game.
This is my friend Caleb, by the way, with BetterWealth, and he's dedicated his life to learning how the ultra wealthy do things to bring down that knowledge to everyday people like us. Do you think there's richer people out there than, the people that we see on the Forbes list, like Bezos, Musk?
Yes. Yeah, 100%. There's people that are way, way wealthier than the people on the Forbes list because of entities and structures and other things that they control that they're not given credit for, and they do it intentionally.
But how do you control something without owning it? Simple. The elite have created certain entities.
Well, I think just off the cuff here, the idea to own nothing and control everything, it's an incredible concept, but in practice, it's actually very difficult to do from a planning perspective. And so this is one of the reasons why ultra high net worth individuals want to do it. They like the anonymity. They like the ability to effectively live their lives without scrutiny. And a book that if anybody wants to dive into, this is an amazing book, The Creature from Jekyll Island. To make a long story short, creating the banking system, it's actually the third banking system we've had in the United States. The Federal Reserve is not federal or a reserve, it's a private bank. Who owns it? Not really sure, but they're the ultra wealthy, right? And it's how things got structured to allow them to have the anonymity. Now, there's some aspect that has changed recently, and actually toward the end of this year, the Corporation Transparency Act goes into effectively full effect. So you have to start filing who you are, what entities you actually own, and who the ultimate beneficiary is of your entities. So I'm not an attorney, but there's going to be some changes in how that reporting happens long term. And it'll be really, really interesting to see what additional information we may be able to find through public record of, wow, who actually does own that massive yacht over there. It'll be interesting.
Yeah, I have a funny feeling, though, there's going to be some type of loophole for the ultra wealth to not be seen. But the mental framework in itself is pretty powerful. Like you get to a place where you want to be known, you want to be flashy, but then you get to a certain place in status and wealth that you're like, actually, I would rather not be known. And that's an interesting aspect, because a lot of the people that we spend time with at masterminds, Dom, and they're not, they're maybe a little bit more flashy, and they're in that place. And so it's interesting when you study wealthy people, you can take the habits and some of the things that they're doing well and try to apply it before you're worth $1 billion. And so that was one of the takeaways that I've gotten in just this whole journey of like, how can I model that today before I'm a billionaire, so that if and when I become a billionaire, it's not one of those things that you have to like retrain the way that you think.
Yeah, you have absolutely no upside when you have a ton of money for people to know you have money, but you have tons of upside. You actually only have downside actually, but you have tons of upside when you have no money to make it seem like you have money, right? It's just kind of why that it's the perceived and personas that way. But the last thing that I'll say before we hit play again is I think it's important for the people watching this is contextually, when we originally did this video, I think the whole point was that how do the ultra wealthy operate to kind of let the normal person or middle class person be able to do some of these concepts in a certain way to where it could benefit you. And I think that as we go through this, some of these concepts really do hit the ultra wealthy. Like some of these concepts, I think for normal people just doesn't make sense. And I think that's something that is important as we go down this rabbit trail, is that not all these concepts will probably be for everybody watching this. And it's important to remember that, because we've had lots of conversations with a lot of people where they have us on the phone. They're like, hey, like I want that Rockefeller method. And Alden has to come in and kind of talk them off the cliff. I'm like, hey, like that concept is actually for someone with a buttload of money. But here's maybe a smaller version on how we can essentially accomplish this to start you off. And especially from a mental perspective, getting you right where you need to be to kind of start building and creating wealth. Because you do have to own some things at the beginning to eventually get to a place where you can own nothing.
Yeah, we're even going to talk about life insurance at the end. And life insurance is great, but there's some people that can't even take advantage of permanent life insurance, or that shouldn't be the focus of what they should focus on. So that's love that point. Hey, it's Caleb Williams here. I'm just interrupting this video quickly to invite you to check out our And Asset Vault. You may have been there. We've actually revamping it. And if you are somebody that wants to learn more about, is life insurance the right fit for me? Does this And Asset make sense? Like, does this actually help me be more efficient? We've put together a 10-minute documentary style video that I think does a really, really good job giving the history, why the And Asset, different setups and designs that we use. And then we have an And Asset Vault that gives like case studies, calculators, handbooks, and so much more. We are here to serve you, whether it's a conversation, whether it's education, or the video. So make sure to go check out andasset.com/vault to learn more.
They've created certain tools that give you all the control you want, while technically on paper, you're as broke as the beggar on the streets. And the first tool that families like the Rockefellers use is called a trust. In 1934, John D. Rockefeller Jr. established trusts for his daughter and 5 sons that consisted of oil company stocks and real estate holdings. These trusts still hold the bulk of the fortune. Another set of trusts were set up in 1952 for his grandchildren, the 4th generation of the family. But why? Why trusts? Think of a trust like a corporation but for your family. You put your money and real estate and businesses into this trust, and once the money is in the trust, you can invest that money however you want. You get to set the rules for what happens to your money when you die. But most importantly, just like a corporation, once you put money in the trust, you do not own it anymore. The trust owns that money. You and the trust are completely separate legal entities. You give up all the ownership of that money, but none of the control. So on paper, maybe you're worth a measly $10 million, but in reality, you might be worth over $100 billion, with all that money safely stashed in hundreds of different trusts. And because these trusts don't directly belong to you, your money is protected. If you get sued or something, they can't come after the money you have in your trusts. Just like how if you sued a corporation and they don't have any money, you're not going to get a cent out of the founder's personal bank accounts. Also in America, we have a death tax, which means when you die and you pass on your money to your kids, they're going to get hit with a death tax of up to 40%, one of the highest in the world. And trusts help your kids avoid that pesky death tax. That way, when you die, your kids just take your place on the board of trustees and all the control that comes with it. But trusts are just one part of the succession plan. What really ties everything all together is this next tool that is very, very sneaky.
Anything that you want to say, Alden, on what Jake talked about with trust?
Yeah, absolutely. So trust is a very non-specific term when it comes to estate planning. I think a friend of mine, he's an attorney, told me this once, but I think there's over 70 different types of trusts that are currently in use in the United States. And so the arranging of those trusts, not all of them do what he's describing, right? So for the majority of people that may be watching this video, for you, a revocable family living trust may be the best option because it gives some benefits, avoids probate, has some aspect of anonymity to a degree, but you don't lose control of the assets because it's revocable, right? You can still put things into it, take things out of it, make adjustments while you're alive. What he's talking about in most likelihood is that there's irrevocable trust planning that actually takes assets from your right pocket in your estate and moves it to your left pocket outside of your estate. When you do that, that degree of separation allows for different tax favorability in the estate tax problem. Once it's out of your estate, you may not necessarily pay any estate taxes on that. Now, there's other things, transfer tax, generation skipping problems that come up, and that's why working with a qualified attorney is really helpful. But I want to just set the stage for people that just getting a trust doesn't mean you're going to do what the Rockefellers did. However, for the vast majority of people, getting a trust is a genius idea, and you can do some aspects of what the Rockefellers did with life insurance. But it's like the difference between building a skyscraper versus building a four apartment building, right? They both house people, but they're very different in their structure.
Yep. Jake said, if you have a measly $10 million, well, that's not so measly for majority of people, including us watching this. It's like that's not pocket change for any of us on this. So I think it's one of those things where a trust, like you said, very, very valuable. Now, does it have to be irrevocable? And some of the things that he talked about in this video, maybe, but you need to be at a certain wealth level to make that make sense, and it has to be set up, and it will cost a lot more to set it up properly.
Yeah, well, I'll speak to...
Go ahead, Dom.
I was just going to say, from an irrevocable trust perspective, right, that's the idea that you're talking, or really what he's talking about, of removing the separation. From a revocable standpoint, obviously things can be changed, which therefore continues to stay from a control perspective. So I'm curious your thoughts of, like, Jake talks about, owning nothing but still gaining control. In my mind, I actually think it's the opposite. When you actually get an irrevocable trust, you actually lose all of control because it's now no longer within that same separation, and now somebody else controls it. So I'm kind of curious your headspace on, because you even said losing some of that control when you set it up this way. And so maybe I'm missing something, but it seems like there's a disconnect between actually where the control piece still comes in when you have a irrevocable trust.
So I think in layman's terms, putting things into irrevocable trust planning because of the separation outside of your estate, you can lose control. Now, certain trust structures and how trust can be structured to have, for example, a board of trustees. I think, Caleb, you said that term, and maybe Jake did. But having a board of trustees that you have direct influence over, you can still get what you need and control that asset to a degree. So there are, I don't want to call it loopholes, but there are lots of ways to structure something to still give you the ability to effectively pull levers without being the person. For example, if a life insurance policy is held within an irrevocable trust, you may not be able to call the insurance company to get a policy loan for a big investment, but the trustee will. If you call the trustee, they'll do that for you, right? So there's ways around that problem, but really moving something outside of your estate is a great way to separate the tax burden of that asset for estate tax purposes. There's a lot of other things as well, but I think, does that answer your question, Doug?
Yeah, no, and I think to the overall point is that this is showing that there's some complexities to it, like bringing in a board of trustees and how it gets set up and the influence you have. And that's why it really does come down to a specific person on, could you imagine somebody who literally makes $10,000 a year that's like, hey, like, I want this concept and I want an irrevocable trust, and then trying to go find like a whole board of trustees. It's like, all right, guys, I need you 7 to be on my board to foster this $4,000 of assets right now, right? Like, it just doesn't really make a lot of sense, especially in your like wealth building phases of life.
Yeah, and I think something that I want to try to make clear for our viewers, because we've had a lot of people come through ultimately onto my calendar, had conversations like, hey, can I set up a Rockefeller trust? The general answer is, yeah, if you've got a couple $1 million net worth, you likely could. Is it going to be the best way to accomplish what you're doing? We work with a fantastic attorney about 30 years in the industry who specializes in creating these types of Rockefeller method trusts. one of the things that he shared was he's worked with thousands and thousands of clients. I think, Caleb, you're on that call, maybe 20 or so of those clients ultimately set up a Rockefeller method that mirrored the Rockefellers. Everybody else did a hybrid because it was easier to manage, easier to control, and ultimately required less maintenance and ongoing cost. And so that's where bringing in a team to kind of advise on that and working with an attorney who knows what they're talking about is really, really helpful. Caleb's helped talk with a couple of people who used an attorney team, ultimately didn't actually get what he wanted, now having to work with somebody brand new because the first group messed it up and charged him a lot of money for the privilege.
Favorite subject.
Go. Yeah.
When you hear the word life insurance, it conjures up images like this. And for the average pleb, life insurance is exactly that. But for the ultra wealthy, life insurance is this insanely powerful tool that they keep under wraps. There's a reason why the Rockefeller family has their own life insurance company, the Rockefeller Insurance Company. That's because for the ultra wealthy, they use life insurance as kind of like a bank account. But not just any ordinary bank account. They use life insurance as kind of like a super bank account that can be used to invest tax-free. It sounds weird, but this is because all life insurance is a contract. A contract that has some very nice tax benefits. Because politicians don't want to tax the poor widow that just lost her husband. The problem is the traditional life insurance policies that are sold to the masses absolutely suck. They're made to enrich the insurance companies and not you. You buy a life insurance plan, you pay some money every month to your insurance company, and in exchange when you die, the company gives your family a couple $1 million. Nothing more and nothing less. So what the ultra wealthy do is they take this basic contract and they just negotiate better terms. And this allows the ultra wealthy to do something very, very special. They put as much money as they want into their life insurance policy, where it grows tax-free, and then they use that money that they put into the life insurance policy to invest in whatever they want. So their investments grow tax-free.
Your money's safe. It will grow the rest of your life. It will grow tax deferred. You can use your money tax free. It will get passed on tax free. It has a lot of other benefits.
So this is, I think, a really important point to hit home. One of the things he just said is just factually inaccurate. You can take money out of your policy tax free to buy assets that are going to grow tax free. No. Now, there are specifics around something called private placement life insurance, where you may actually have the ability to put specific assets into a life insurance policy. Private placement is a very high net worth situation. That's completely different. Private placement is not typically used in this type of insurance planning. They're using the same type of insurance companies and contracts that you and I would use, right? So even big mutual companies, non-mutual companies, providing that death benefit, but the nature of the contract gives us that tax deferred, not tax free, treatment of the growth of the asset. You can access it tax exempt, so non-taxable on that loan, and then invest it. But whatever investment activities you're doing, if that gives us an income, whether capital gains or earned income, it's taxable. Now, not tax advice, but that's how I understand taxes to work.
Yeah, but if it was in irrevocable trust concept, again, we're not
Still
giving
taxable.
legal advice. You could see where, yes, but you could see where that tax is not on you. It's on, but you're saying that the tax has to be paid somewhere somehow.
Yeah, the piper's got to get paid. Uncle Sam's going to come knocking, and so there's a lot of structures that can defer, mitigate, and offset the tax to different entities you may own or control. But taxes are still a factor for sure.
Yeah. It'll be interesting, and I don't want to go down this road right now, but it would be interesting if you look at charitable entities like foundations and all, if some of that stuff is mitigated.
Oh, absolutely.
So,
And thank you for the clarity there. Other charitable trusts, foundations, those are places where you can actually compound and grow those dollars tax-free and use them tax-free for certain circumstances. But earning the money to get it in there, that's going to cause a taxation problem.
Right.
There was also a part where Jake talked about how the typical type of life insurance, quote unquote, sucks. And I just wanted to kind of just put the elephant in the room and share a little bit of my perspective on that. And the reason being is, if you know anything about us here at BetterWealth, like we specialize in what we call overfunded whole life insurance, which is essentially optimizing the cash value piece of it and making the policy as efficient as possible based off of the goals that you're wanting, especially for a storage of capital usage. But the typical whole life that he's referring to that sucks really maximizes the death benefit as much as possible. But when doing so, that strategy is actually used a lot of times by the extremely ultra high net worth from an estate planning perspective, right? When you start looking at the massive tax bill that people are having currently right now, correct me if I'm wrong, Oliver, but it's like 22 million-ish for a married couple, and the sunset rule is going to come pretty soon, so it's going to be a whole lot less pretty soon. But that type of individual uses the sucky life insurance to get as much death benefit as possible to then be able to offset the tax bill that someone's going to have at the end of their life as well.
A lot of other benefits. And so what the wealthy use it is they don't use it as an investment. They use it as like a safe asset. I call it the and asset because they're able to give their dollars more than one job. And so they're able to do that while it's protected, while it's off the radar screen of the IRS because it's not considered income. That's how a lot of wealthy people use it. And then step number 3 is usually to take the money or to utilize the money. You're not withdrawing your money, what a lot of people do, because that would be in a lot of cases taxable upon gain. They're borrowing against it or using a third-party bank to borrow against their asset. And as a result, if you borrow against it, it's not considered income. So a lot of wealthy people like Elon Musk and all these people, they're borrowing against the equity in their businesses. Insurance, and when you max fund insurance, that's why a bunch of banks do this, is over 3,000 banks today have what's called bank-owned life insurance. Some of their safest assets in the bank is in bank-owned life insurance. Why do they do that? It's an asset that they can borrow against and key team members and employees. And so many institutions use life insurance not as a death benefit, but as an and as a place to store and use their money.
But not only that, just like a trust,
Yep.
Can we just pause for a second to give Caleb a round of applause on that segment? That was fire. That was good. That's good. We can keep going, but man, that was
pulled from different places. I don't remember. I don't recall being like that straight up, but I was like, man, that haircut definitely was tight. I like that.
Your jacket also looks like you're like a priest or something like that too, the way that it's set up. So
Love it. All right, let's keep moving.
The money that the rich put in their life insurance policies are also protected from creditors and legal penalties. But where things get really crazy is when the rich start borrowing money against their own life insurance policy, and then they use that money to invest in more assets. So basically what rich people do is they put, let's say, $1 million into their insurance policy, and that money in their insurance policy, they invest it into like the stock market or something, and it returns 7%. And the whole game is borrowing like 100K from that million at like a lower interest rate on your loan at like 3%.
So yes, that's exactly.
I don't even know my response. We'll see. But I was like, Jake, can we get a better example than like putting money in a 7% index fund? Like I would hope the wealthy would do something better, but I was like, you know what? I'm not gonna try to like correct everything. We're just gonna try to, like, the big point of this video was to say that the wealthy use life insurance as an asset. It's not an investment. And so there's a lot of things that we were trying to do in this video, but I will see what I said to this.
Whatever your response is, you look excited to give it.
Yeah.
Very conservative numbers. If you borrowed at 5% and you earn 7%, your money in your insurance is continuing to grow and you're getting all the benefits of insurance. But on that borrowed at 5, earning 7, that's a 40% rate of return in the first year. So you're getting a 40% rate of return on that side. And people might say that doesn't make sense. You're becoming the bank. You're using arbitrage. Your investment is the 5%, not the full money, because your money's in your policy continuing to compound. So the same thing goes with making a greater rate of return. The benefit of this is having a dollar doing more than one thing, and the people that borrow against it, they have to make sure that their activities get a greater return than what the cost of borrowing. And if you can do that, you can really have a dollar doing more than one job.
But how does taking a loan out on your own life insurance policy?
Anything that you guys want to say on that?
I would just say that I think that was well said, and I think that the thing that's even missing is the other benefits that come with it that we're not talking about, right? Like giving somebody the permission to spend their cash value because they have the death benefit and they have something to pass down, using it as a volatility buffer, cash flow in retirement, like just peace of mind so you show up more powerfully. Like there's a lot of things that life insurance can do for somebody that's not directly resulted in a rate of return.
Alden, is there anything that you want to say before I continue to watch?
How does taking a loan out on your own life insurance policy even work? Like, where do you even go to do that?
You could go right to the insurance company and they give you an unstructured loan, no questions asked. And you could just say, hey, I want a $200,000 lien. It's almost like a HELOC, but it's an unstructured. So when you go to a bank and get a loan, you have to pay that money back. In insurance company, you don't have to pay that money back because they know that you're going to die someday and they have that unilateral contract and they're paying upon your death. So the cool thing is, Jake, you have this outstanding loan, a $200,000 loan, you're doing the things with it and you never pay that money back. When you die, the insurance company is going to pay out your beneficiary, your family, minus what you owe them. So insurance is one of the only institutions that doesn't require you to have to pay back that loan because they're hedging both sides. They're hedging your mortality and they're also hedging interest rate. And because they're a lifelong contract commitment, they're gonna last a lot longer than we live. They can play the ultimate long game. And so we call these loans, but they're just a more efficient way to use money. And you can decide if you wanna pay them back because it's either gonna come out of your legacy. Yeah, it's either gonna come out of your legacy or out of your pocket while you're alive.
Makes sense. So when you say unstructured, that means that there's no like repayment terms. Like I don't have to.
You decide. Yeah. Unstructured means you decide when you pay them, if you pay them, how much interest you pay them, and you're really in control because you are the owner of that contract.
But where it really ties everything back together is that when your kids die, you set it up so that the
what you said was extremely powerful. You get to decide on if you want to use it today while you're alive or use it on your legacy. And I think that's the really, really cool part about life insurance is it gives you options. There's so many tools out there that kind of put you in a pigeonhole in one box that you have to use it for one specific thing. But life insurance gives you the options to do different things depending on life circumstances in that exact moment in time. Really awesome.
Yeah, I think that was really well said, Caleb. I think the only thing that I want to clarify just for the sake of people understanding what's actually happening is one of the things you said is it's your repayment terms. It's an unstructured line of credit because there's no repayment time frame, right? And you don't have to have mandatory repayments because it's going to be paid at your death, like you said. But there is an interest rate accruing against that loan. You can choose to pay it back quicker, pay back more interest. This kind of types into the idea of infinite banking. But there is interest the insurance company is charging because they have to grow their general account. And that may be money that they're investing to you on that loan. They have to grow that general account to pay ultimate death benefits. So I just want to make that point there.
No, it's like anything. I think we talked for like over an hour, Jake and I, on a Google Meet, which is funny because it's like the most viral video that I've been a part of. It's like shot the most, like not even to the quality that we have. It just tells you how awesome storytelling can really take something to the next level. And to his credit, he picked sections and thought he did a really good job, but maybe there needs to be a part 2 to this whole thing. And I would be curious if you're watching this, like if we did a part 2 with Jake, what should the subject be? How can we frame it? Because if we can get a proper frame, I think I could pitch it to him. Due to time, the next part of this video goes into foundations. Let me go to the very end because I think they do like a promo for us. And then I would encourage everyone to check it out. If you have not watched it, subscribe to Jake. We'd love to hear from you. And it's kind of special. It's the channel, the BetterWealth channel has grown quite a bit, and it's because we've put out great content. But this channel definitely, or this video when it went live, helped a lot. And it brought exposure to people that didn't even know that we existed. And so we definitely need to do more of this ongoing collaborations with other channels. And so very grateful for that.
Top the patriarch makes all the money. He then puts the money into trusts. The family members are a part of the trust, and they each get their own life insurance policies. Any extra money can be put into the family foundation for other strategic goals. And when the family members die, their death benefit from the life insurance goes right back into the trust to keep the family pot growing. And to manage all of this, you have what's called a family office. Basically a group of the best wealth management advisors to deal with this giant mess. And there's a reason you probably haven't heard about most of this.
The wealthy have tried to keep trust, foundations, insurance, all of this on the down low, mainly because, again, they don't want to create a spotlight to how they're controlling and passing on money. And so it's the same people that will create confusion in the education system. These are the same people that are saying life insurance is a horrible place to put your money. They know it's not an investment, but they love financial pundits saying that it is. And as a result, many people are just buying term, investing in the stock market, doing their thing, putting their head down, and are getting broker and broker every generation because they're not controlling and using their money like the wealthy. So one of the biggest reasons most people are not talking about this life insurance, even in our industry, is majority of people are not incentivized to do the right thing. So the reason why majority of life insurance policies are not set up like what I've been sharing with you is it comes down to compensation and commission. We get paid about 1/10 of what a typical life insurance person would get paid for setting up a policy. The reason for that is we're trying to keep the policy as flexible and as overfunded as possible, and we get paid on what's called the base premium. And really the secret behind this is getting the base as small as possible and using other ways to front load and finance the policy. And so number one, the ultra wealthy don't want you to know this because they've been using these strategies for years upon years. But then a lot of the people in our space don't necessarily want you to know about this because they're making a lot of money selling typical life insurance policies for estate planning. And so the reason we're able to do this is we play the long game, and we essentially are saying, hey, we're going to play the volume game. We're going to do the right thing. We're going to make money helping people set this up, but we know that we're just going to serve a lot more people. And in the end, it's a great business for us to be in, but everyone that works with us gets an incredible policy that's super flexible that is almost feels illegal to have.
So again, if you're interested in using life insurance in this manner, scroll down and click the link below to go to betterwealth.com/Jake to learn more. His team will get clear about where you're at and where you want to be to see if you would actually benefit from this strategy. And if this strategy would help you, they'll walk you through all the steps and help you get set up with everything. And keep in mind, Caleb was telling me how this strategy really only makes sense if you're able to save at least $10,000 a year, because there are some fixed costs that wouldn't make it make sense if you're only able to put in a few $100s a month. But if that is you, scroll down and click the link below to go to betterwealth.com/Jake to learn more. BetterWealth is the paid sponsor of this video, and of course, I am not a registered financial advisor. You should always check with your professional financial, tax, and legal advisors before making any financial decisions. This video is for information purposes only, and as always, stay dangerous.
Good stuff.
All right. So let me say something real quick, just in regards to that last clip and segment that we just watched. I think that if we don't say something, there may be a lot of advisors that are watching this that may essentially feel some type of way about maybe something that Caleb said. And the first thing that I want to say is that I think Caleb, of all people, will say that as time goes on, we have gained tons of wisdom in the space, and we have grown tremendously. If you even go read our book, The And Asset, you can go ahead and read through some of the stuff, and we kind of like cringe as we read through some of it. And I think every year that goes by, there's things that we said that we may have been like, you know what, we probably could said this a little differently, or you know what, we could probably position this a little differently. And I think that some of the things that I've learned and matured about is because I was very heavy in the way that I said this, is that agents were very commission heavy, and their intention was to do the wrong thing, and that they were doing higher base policies intentionally to essentially get paid more money. Now, with that being said, I think I could probably speak for everybody on this call, is that there are some advisors that do that. There are some advisors that intentionally will increase the base so that they can make more money. On the other side, I do think that there are other advisors that intentionally increase the base, not for their pocketbooks, but doing it because they truly do believe that it is the right thing. And so when we talk about that there being a right way or a wrong way, I think that the whole purpose of what we try to do here at BetterWealth is ask really great questions to getting to know what it is that you really, really want, not just out of a life insurance policy, but what you want out of life. And then hopefully what we can do is design the policy accordingly. And sometimes, learning from Alden, increasing the base actually can be a slightly beneficial thing, whether that is getting more death benefit up front, or giving you the ability to put more money into the future, or helping with an estate tax problem later on in life. Now, for other people that want strict high early cash value policy, and they want as much flexibility as possible, designing it with the lowest base possible would actually be the best case scenario for you, which is our conversations with 95% of the people that we're having conversations with. And so with that being said, life insurance is a tool. Life insurance can be designed a specific way, and designing it based off of what you as a consumer want is the most important thing. And really there isn't a right or a wrong way, but designing it wrongly will be designing it in the opposite way of what you asked for. And I think now that is malicious and not integral. And that is where I think that the industry is getting it wrong.
Yeah,
Amazing.
and we got to stop after a few minutes. I'm getting the hard stop from Joel, our producer. The thing that I would say, you said it perfectly, Dom, is it's not even that individuals are trying to screw people. I think the system is not necessarily set up to have us be able to optimally help individuals, even in how commission structures are set up, how it's like you either eat or you don't eat, and then you even have your mentors or the people above you that are incentivized to potentially go a certain direction. So I think it's important to understand those incentives, but I also I do think like you're for sure like the older we get, I think the more moderate we get, believe it or not, because it's just like, I mean, I think we did like a full base policy, so that's, it's not like we're evil. It's like the person that wanted to do that, it was the best situation for them, and they saw all the scenarios. And so, yeah, appreciate you mentioning that. And I just want to say, like, how cool is it for us to do this review? And it brings back great memories. That video almost has 1 million views, and we've been able to meet so many people because of that video. And so it's just really, I'm really grateful to Jake that we were able to do that. And I'm excited for this next year and all the collaborations that we have lined up. If you have a channel, or if you're like, hey, Caleb, you should go on this channel or have a collaboration, please reach out, because we're hoping to get our message out to more people. Final thoughts for Alden and then you, Dom.
I think overall this was a great opportunity for us to review this. I think to land the plane on the insurance conversation, when it comes to what your need is coming in the door, that tells us what type of policy may be best propositioned for you to review, right? We've sold dozens and dozens, if not hundreds, of base-focused policies for the purpose of death benefit protection solely. That's kind of what estate tax mitigation is. We want those types of policies. But if you come in saying you want high cash value, it would be unethical of me to sell you a policy that's focused on death benefit. It's just not giving you what you want. So we do both. And I think this highlights this very versatile asset of life insurance. Depending upon what your needs are, we're going to build it the way it needs to be built.
Yeah.
Last thing, I'm grateful. I'm blessed to be here. Being here with you guys is just an example of us being intentional, living an intentional life. I had a lot of fun, and hopefully we can do more stuff like this in the future.
Same.
Guys, we'd love to hear from you. If you're not subscribed to this channel, what are you doing? Please subscribe. Please share our content with people that you think would add value. And if we can serve you and your family and your loved ones, please don't hesitate to reach out. Love you all. Peace.